Okay, imagine this. You're in the middle of a conversation in English. Maybe it's a work call, with colleagues from all over the world. Or maybe you're just trying to order a coffee somewhere new. And it's going well, you're feeling confident. And then, bam, someone asks you a question you just did not see coming.
And that's it. That confident flow just stops.
Ugh.
Total silence.
And that's the moment we're really going to get into today, that deep, really uncomfortable freeze. It
Yes.
feels like the air just gets sucked out of the room, your brain stops, and every single English word you've ever learned has just, well, decided to leave.
Oh, yeah, I've gone on vacation.
Right. And for language learners, that moment, that freeze, it isn't just a little awkward. It can feel like a complete failure. And it can just crush your confidence. Exactly. It's that surge of panic. And the panic is the real enemy, isn't it? Because that's what pushes you into that awkward silence. Or maybe even worse, it makes you try to rush out some answer that just comes out as a total mess. We know that feeling of being completely and utterly stuck. And we just want you to know that this deep dive is a really safe, supportive space. It's designed for exactly that feeling.
Well, welcome to this deep dive. Our whole mission here on Fluent Mindcast is really about helping you manage those high-pressure moments. We like to slow things down, take apart the anxiety piece by piece, and give you some clear, real-life English guidance that you can use, almost automatically.
Right.
We really believe that good communication, especially in a second language, is maybe 80% strategy and only 20% vocabulary.
So what's our goal for today? For the next 30 or 40 minutes or so, we're basically building a conversational toolkit, an arsenal, if you like.
I like that.
Simple, safe expressions that help you keep the conversation moving, even when you genuinely have no idea what to say. This could be at work, while you're traveling, or just, in a social situation.
Our mission is to move you beyond that silent panic. We're going to arm you with some simple, native-like tools that work because they don't require a lot of brain power when your brain is already working overtime. You don't need the perfect answer in that moment. You just need a perfect way to acknowledge the question and buy yourself a little bit of thinking time.
Okay, so let's jump right into section 1, because before we get to the tools, we have to talk about the psychology of it all. We have to rethink silence. And this starts with what we're calling the reassurance principle. Someone asks a question, the pressure is on, and you just freeze. Why does our brain do that to us? What's going on in there?
That's the perfect place to start. And first, we have to validate that feeling. It's completely real. When you're speaking in a second language, you're asking your brain to do a lot of things at once. You're retrieving words, organizing grammar, constructing sentences.
All at the same time.
All at the same time. You're using so much more cognitive energy than a native speaker. So now you add a surprise question into that mix, something unexpected or complicated. Your brain sees that as a threat. It's an overload situation. And what's the brain's first, most primal response to a threat? It hits the emergency brake.
A shutdown.
It triggers a momentary cognitive shutdown. It's literally trying to prevent the whole system from crashing. And that's why all your vocabulary just vanishes. It's a defense mechanism.
That makes so much sense. The brain is basically saying, nope, cannot process this. Too much pressure, halting all operations.
Precisely. And what's so important to understand, and this is something all our research on communication anxiety points to, is that this freezing is absolutely not a failure unique to language learners. It's a human response to unexpected pressure.
I think a lot of learners feel that if they pause for even, 3 seconds in English, the other person, the native speaker, just assumes they're not smart or they don't understand. But that's a huge mental block, isn't it?
It is a massive block, and we need to just take it apart. I mean, think about it. How often does a native speaker, if you ask them a really complex question, a big life decision or a financial question, how often do they just pause?
All the time.
They hesitate. They might look up at the ceiling. They might take a deep breath. They need time to structure their thoughts. They are not instantly producing a perfect, grammatically flawless sentence.
Yeah. If I ask a coworker, what do you think the long-term impact of this new policy is going to be? They don't just spit out a perfect answer. They'll probably say, that's a good question, and then just stare out the window for like 8 seconds. And that's a productive silence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is the key takeaway here. Silence is not your enemy. It's a natural, it's an essential, and it's an expected part of real communication. When you pause in your own language, people assume you're thinking deeply. But when learners pause in English, they jump to the worst conclusion.
Right. They must think I don't get it.
Exactly. We have to shift that mindset. A deliberate, calm pause actually signals that you're engaged and you're considering the question seriously.
So if the pause itself isn't the real problem, what's the biggest thing that actually causes the panic? You talked about something called the translation trap. What is that?
The translation trap, right? This is the default setting that so many non-native speakers fall back on when they're under pressure. It's the act of trying to translate an entire, complex, nuanced thought directly from your native language into English in real time. It might work for writing, but for speaking, well, it's a disaster. When you're stressed, your brain is trying to juggle three incredibly difficult tasks at once. First, you're forming the thought in language A with all its own rules and nuances.
Okay.
Second, you're trying to find the perfect matching words, grammar, and sentence structure in language B, English. And third, you're doing this real-time quality check to make sure it's accurate.
Wow, that sounds exhausting just hearing you describe it. It's like trying to juggle while riding a unicycle.
It is exhausting. And it's a recipe for a system overload. When you try to map one complex language system onto another one in a high-pressure moment, you create a bottleneck. The whole system just freezes up. You're not just looking for one word. You're trying to build this perfectly complex sentence from scratch. It's just too heavy a lift.
So the big idea then is, instead of trying to build this perfect bridge between two languages in a panic, the goal is to just switch from that intense internal translation to using simple, automatic phrases that buy you time.
Like that?
Like pre-programmed moves that stop the panic before it starts.
Exactly. Think of them as conversational shortcuts. If you just focus on saying a simple pre-made phrase like, "That's interesting, let me think about that," your brain isn't wasting all that energy trying to find the perfect verb tense. It just delivers a short, rehearsed social signal. And that simple act stops the panic cycle and gives you the space to actually think.
Okay, so before we get into what those phrases are, I want to invite you, the listener, to just take a slow moment right here. We've figured out that the freeze is normal, but it's our reaction to the freeze that we need to change. So just for a second, I want you to reflect. What do you usually do in that moment when your mind goes blank? Do you try to force out a fast answer? Do you try to translate a huge, complex thought and end up with that long, uncomfortable silence? Short pause.
And here's another question to ask yourself.
Yeah.
What would you say in your own language in that situation? You probably wouldn't be totally silent, would you?
No, of course not.
You'd use a filler word, a sound, some little phrase that says, "Okay, I heard you, I'm thinking." And that's all we're aiming for in English. We are strategically replacing that anxious silence with a strategic time-buying sound. And that should feel incredibly freeing.
That strategic sound. I like that. It brings us perfectly into section 2, buying time. These are the simple, safe, natural pauses that are about to become your new best friends in English. And the main idea here is that these phrases tell the other person, "I'm listening, I'm processing, I just need a second."
Right.
They signal engagement, not confusion.
These are what I like to call conversational lubricants. They just keep everything running smoothly. Even if the engine, your brain needs a few extra seconds to really get going.
I like that.
The key thing is that they fulfill that social need to respond immediately, but the response is a strategic pause, not the full answer.
Okay, let's start with phrase number 1. This is a classic, it's totally natural, and it's a great stalling tool. Let me think for a second.
This is a perfect one to start with because it's so direct, it's polite, and everyone understands it. You can use it pretty much anywhere. I sometimes call it a permission phrase. You're literally asking for a short delay, and because it's so polite, people almost always grant it to you. It's beautifully simple.
And it buys you real time. We're talking 3, 4, maybe 5 seconds, which when you're panicking feels like a lifetime of relief. That little window is often all you need to switch from that panic mode to, organized thinking mode.
Let's put it in a real situation. Imagine you're in a big meeting and your boss asks, "What's the biggest risk factor for this project?" If you just stand there in silence, it feels awful. But if you just say, calmly, "Let me think for a second," you instantly sound competent. You're signaling that the question is important and you're going to give it a careful, considered answer.
What about variations on that? Because, let me think for a second, can sometimes feel a little casual for, say, a really formal meeting.
That's a great point. For a more formal situation, you could try something like, "Just give me a moment to gather my thoughts."
Oh, I like that.
Or, if you want to sound even more thoughtful, that requires some reflection. "Please bear with me."
Nice.
See how those phrases show you're taking the question seriously? You're not running away from it. You're professionalizing the pause.
I read somewhere that just the act of saying something like saying, let me think for a second out loud, it actually helps to calm you down physically. It lowers your heart rate. You're breaking that panic loop by forcing your brain to do a simple, different task.
That's absolutely right. It's a physiological trick.
Huh?
You're replacing that rush of anxiety with the simple act of speaking a few clear words.
Hmm.
So we really encourage you right now to just repeat that phrase out loud. Focus on a calm, slow delivery. Let me think for a second. Okay, fantastic. Now for phrase number 2. I love this one because it sounds so confident, but it's really just a simple conversational trick that native speakers use all the time. That's a good question.
This one is brilliant. It's brilliant because it takes the focus off you for a moment and puts it back on the question itself. It's a very polite way to deflect, and it works so well. Native speakers use this constantly for all kinds of questions, simple or complex,
Why?
because it makes the other person feel smart and it gives you a few seconds of grace. But hold on, couldn't that sound a little strange? If someone asks me something simple like, what time does the meeting start? And I say, that's a good question. Won't that sound sarcastic?
It's all in the intonation. You're
Mm.
right. If you say it with a funny tone, it can be a joke.
Mm.
But in a normal conversation, even a professional one, if someone asks, why did we pick this supplier over the other one? And you need a second to remember,
Mm.
saying, that's a good question, with a serious tone, it validates their question, and it frames your pause as necessary for a thoughtful answer. It buys you that time to think. It makes you sound calm and in control. And it's a really polite way to acknowledge the other person while you're secretly getting your thoughts in order. The moment you say it, the social pressure just kind of melts away.
The genius of it is that it really does work in almost any situation, from a casual chat where someone asks about your hobbies and you need a moment, to a really high-pressure meeting where you need to check your facts. It just makes it seem like the question deserves some real thought.
And remember the psychological effect on you. When you say, that's a good question, in a calm voice, you project confidence. The other person doesn't hear hesitation. They hear deep thought.
All right, let's move to our third phrase, which gets at probably the biggest anxiety for learners. The pressure to be perfect. The phrase is, I'm not sure, but.
This is such a powerful tool because it immediately removes that internal pressure to know everything. So many learners think they have to give a perfect, complete answer every time or they'll look stupid. But real life isn't like that. We often don't know, or we only have part of the answer.
But wait a minute. In a professional setting, doesn't saying I'm not sure make me sound weak or unprepared? Shouldn't I at least try to guess?
That's a really common fear, but here's the thing. A guess, a rushed, uncertain answer often sounds much weaker than just being honest. In many Western business cultures, saying, I'm not sure, and then following it up is actually seen as being honest and responsible. The secret is the but. You don't just stop at, I'm not sure. You use the but to pivot to what you do think or what you can do.
Ah, I see.
You're showing honesty, but you're still staying in the conversation.
So instead of freezing out trying to remember the exact project deadline, I can say, I'm not sure of the exact date, but I think it's sometime in early May.
Hmm.
It gives some information, but admits it's not perfect.
Perfect. That communicates, I don't have the final answer, but here's my best guess right now. Or in a complex discussion, you could say, I'm not sure about all the financial details, but my gut feeling is that we should proceed with caution.
Mm-hmm.
You're sharing an idea without claiming to be the world's leading expert. It just lowers the pressure and allows you to speak more freely.
So if we connect all three of those phrases, they create this really simple, powerful toolkit. You've got, let me think for a second, the polite deflection. That's a good question. And the honest out, I'm not sure, but with those three, you can handle almost any unexpected question without that silent panic.
Okay, so now we're moving from buying time to think to actively dealing with confusion. This is section 3, asking for clarification. This is one of the most powerful and I think underused tools there is.
Right, because it is 100% okay to admit you didn't hear something or you didn't understand a word. I'd even say that asking for clarification shows confidence, not weakness.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It shows you're engaged and that you care about accuracy. Answering a question incorrectly because you misunderstood it, that's far more damaging to a conversation than just asking someone to repeat themselves.
Definitely.
Because then you have to backtrack and fix the confusion and it all just gets messy.
Yeah, let's think about the real-world situations. You're on a phone call and the connection is bad. Or you're talking to someone with a strong accent or who speaks really fast. Or you're in a noisy cafe. It happens to native speakers constantly. And they don't hesitate. They just ask for clarification.
And that speed is important. You have to ask before you get too lost. So you need some simple automatic phrases ready to go.
Okay, so we've got two main options here, depending on how formal the situation is.
Exactly. Option A is the most polite and formal version. Could you repeat that, please? This is your gold standard for any professional or respectful situation. The word could makes it very polite. It's clear, it's simple, it works in a job interview, in a business meeting, anywhere.
It's basically like hitting the reset button on that last sentence, but you're politely asking them to do it. It communicates, what you said is important, and I want to make sure I get it right.
And what if you only missed one part? A slightly more advanced version is, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch the last part. Could you say that again, please?
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, it shows you were listening, and it helps them know exactly what you need repeated.
Okay, and then we have option B, the more casual or conversational way. Sorry, I didn't catch that.
This is what you'll hear every single day between friends, coworkers, in shops. It's much quicker. The word catch is very natural in English. It implies the information was just too fast or too quiet. It's a low-pressure, high-use phrase. We could even add a super casual one that native speakers use with friends all the time.
What's that?
Just say that again, or what was that? Now, you have to be careful with these. You wouldn't say that again to your new boss.
Right.
But with a friend, it's completely normal.
The great thing about sorry I didn't catch that is how short and easy it is. It's a quick apology for the break in communication, not an apology for your English skills. And because it's so quick, you can say it immediately before the freeze can even start.
And please remember, native speakers use these phrases all the time. They are essential communication tools. So if you're worried about sounding awkward, just reframe it. You're not being awkward. You're being a good communicator who wants to be accurate.
Okay, let's do a little practice here. A pacing check. I want you, the listener, to imagine a specific high-pressure situation. You're at the airport, on the phone, trying to confirm your flight details, and it's really loud in the background. First, practice the formal phrase. Say it slowly and clearly. Could you repeat that, please? Short pause.
Now, imagine the situation is more relaxed. You're asking a friend for directions. Try the more casual one. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Short pause. Saying them out loud is what makes them feel automatic and natural when you really need them.
All right, moving into section 4, keeping the flow. So sometimes the conversation doesn't freeze because you don't know an answer. It just sort of stops. It hits a dead end. And you need a way to restart it or pivot gracefully.
Yes, these are our conversational transitions, the little phrases we use when things get awkward or quiet and you need a smooth way to just keep going. A sudden silence can feel really uncomfortable, so using a quick transition phrase just changes the energy and gets things moving again.
And we have two of the simplest, most effective phrases for this. So anyway, or by the way.
Okay, let's break down the difference. So anyway
Oh.
is perfect for getting back to the main topic after you've gone off on a tangent. Imagine you were talking about work, but then you spent 5 minutes talking about a TV show you both watch. To get back, you just say, so anyway, getting back to those reports, it's a signal. It tells the other person, okay, fun tangent over, let's get back to business.
It's great for recovering, too. If you had a little freeze a minute ago, you can use so anyway to just smoothly move past that awkward moment and get back on track.
And, by the way, it's a classic pivot. It's how you gently change the topic. Usually it's because you just remembered something. Maybe the conversation got a bit too serious, or you just thought of something new to add.
Like what?
Oh, by the way, did you get that email I sent this morning? Or, by the way, I finally finished that book we were talking about. It's a soft interruption.
These transition phrases are so low stress, there's no complicated grammar. They just smooth over the rough patches and make the whole conversation feel more natural and relaxed.
Now, there's another really important part of keeping the flow, and that's showing engagement. Using listening cues. A really common mistake learners make is feeling like they have to give a long, detailed answer every single time the other person stops talking. And that is just exhausting.
It's totally unsustainable. Sometimes a short response is all you need to show you're listening and you understand. It confirms you're with them without forcing you to produce a whole new complex thought.
In linguistics, this is called back-channeling. It's the little sounds and words we use to show we're active listeners. And if you watch two native speakers talk, they're doing it constantly.
Okay, so let's list the most essential, easy ones, the short responses we have. That makes sense. I see. Or just
I see is a simple confirmation. It means I understand what you just told me. It doesn't necessarily mean you agree, just that you've received the information. That makes sense, is similar, but it usually shows you understand the logic behind what they're saying.
And right, so simple, but so powerful.
Right? Is a total powerhouse. If you say it with a simple, flat tone, it just means, I'm listening, keep going.
Hmm.
Very. If you say it with a nod and a positive tone, it can mean, I totally agree.
Right.
Exactly. Like that. With an upward inflection, it can show surprise or that you've just realized something. It's incredibly versatile and requires almost no effort.
So if someone is explaining something complicated to you, you don't have to interrupt with a full summary of what they said. You just need to show you're still with them. So after a key point, you can just say, ah, I see, or, okay, that makes sense. It keeps you present in the conversation.
The strength of these is how short and frequent they are. They let you stay connected without having to talk too much. You can show you're engaged with one single clear word like,
Very.
and save all your mental energy for when you really need to say something complex.
So we've gone through the tactics. Now let's talk about the bigger picture in this last section, section 5. This is all about the power of simplicity. It's about focusing on confidence, not complexity.
And before we get to simplicity, let's just quickly review what to avoid. Number 1, we have to avoid that translation trap at all costs. The moment you feel yourself starting to translate in your head, just stop. Use one of our time-buying phrases instead.
And number 2, we really have to avoid those long, super complex sentences when we feel nervous. The brain just can't handle it under pressure.
Complexity is the enemy of clarity when you're feeling anxious. It just is. The moment you feel that pressure, your brain needs the simplest, clearest path forward. If you have a choice between a short, perfect sentence and a long, complicated one,
Choose the short one.
every single time, your goal is just to be understood quickly and easily.
I think so many learners feel that if they use simple sentences, they'll sound, less intelligent. They think complex language equals a complex mind.
That is such a huge misconception. All the research shows that clear, short phrases actually sound more confident and more authoritative than long, rambling sentences that sound forced. I mean, think about it from the listener's perspective. If you speak in short, clear sentences, you sound like you know exactly what you want to say. The message is direct. But if you try to use a really long sentence and you're pausing and correcting your grammar, you sound hesitant and unsure. Simple English is powerful.
And there's a really crucial point connected to this, which is about speed. Speaking slowly and clearly is always better than speaking fast and being unsure. Trying to talk as fast as a native speaker when you're nervous just doesn't work.
Prioritize clarity over speed every time. When you consciously slow down, you give your own brain more time to find the right words and organize your thoughts. You also give the listener more time to process what you're saying. It's a win-win. A slow, clear speaker is always more powerful than a fast, jumbled one.
So what's the ultimate takeaway here? What's the core principle that should guide us in every conversation?
It's that communication is not about perfect grammar. It's about connection. We have to remember that the person you're talking to cares so much more about understanding your idea than they do about a small grammar mistake. They want to connect with you. Linguistic perfection is just not the goal. Mutual understanding is the goal. And if you focus on that, the pressure just goes way down.
Okay, so let's end this section with one last reflection for you, the listener. We've gone over a lot of phrases today. I just want you to notice which of these simple expressions felt the most useful for you. Which one feels like something you could actually start using?
Yeah, that's a good question, for work. Or maybe you realize you really need to start using, sorry, I didn't catch that. more often. Just pick 1 or 2 phrases that really stick out to you and make a commitment to try and use them in your very next English conversation. Make them your focus.
Because that focus is how you build real confidence. Every time you successfully use one of these little phrases, you're building fluency more effectively than just memorizing vocabulary lists. And we promise, with a little practice, these phrases, I see. Let me think. By the way, they will become automatic, and conversations will start to feel less like a test and more like, well, an enjoyable exchange.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's just hold on to that core idea we've built today. Communication is about building a bridge between 2 people. It's not about perfect, flawless engineering.
That is a perfect way to put it. You're just trying to get an idea from your mind to theirs. The words you use don't have to be fancy or complex. They just have to be strong enough to carry your meaning. And it is always, always okay to pause and think. That's not an English learner thing. That's just a human thing.
So when you feel that tension, that moment your mind starts to go blank, remember, You have a toolkit now. You know how to create a strategic pause. You know how to ask for clarification. You know how to pivot the conversation. These are the things that will allow you to stay calm and present because you don't have to be afraid of the silence anymore. You've turned that silence from a moment of panic into a moment of strategy.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We really hope it was practical and, well, reassuring. We hope you feel a little lighter, a little less stressed, and a lot more prepared for your next English conversation.
Just take a breath, relax, and remember, Fluent Mindcast is always here for you. It's your place for learning simple, real-life English with calm and with clarity. Use these tools, practice them slowly, and just watch your confidence grow. We can't wait to dive deep with you again next time.